Hello. Hello, everybody. Michael Tillinger here. It is 3 o'clock Johannesburg time. I guess it's 1 o'clock London time and 8 a.m. New York time. Today is the 29th of January, 2025, and this is podcast number 9 in the One Small Town podcast series. Welcome to everybody that's joining us live, and to those that will be watching this afterwards. A great session that we're going to go through today. Really looking forward to this. Let me tell you what we're going to discuss, what this podcast is going to be covering. We're going to cover going to Mars. Yeah, we're gonna send civilization to Mars. Everybody's talking about Mars and colonizing Mars. But what is that going to look like? And how are we going to colonize Mars if we're thinking the way we think of the world today? Are we just going to make the same mistakes we're making on Earth today, or is this going to be an improvement? Are we going to set up a completely different social structure? That's a very fascinating, beautiful, philosophical debate, right? By the way, this is going live on Facebook, and this is recording for later release on all the other channels that cannot go live simultaneously because of my pathetic Wi-Fi bandwidth here. So we're going to talk about Mars. We're going to talk about consciousness. How does consciousness play a role in the One Small Town initiative? How does consciousness play a role in us succeeding with this and making it a success and so forth? How it affects different kinds of people and how it affects our decisions that we make and so forth. We're going to talk about politics and the effect and the influence of politics on the One Small Town communities. We're going to talk about freedom, about the meaning of freedom. What does it mean to be free? Are we really free? Or are we just living in illusion, thinking that we're free, but we're not really? We're going to talk about the different problems that we face and how quickly and how easily the One Small Town situation solves the problems that we face. Literally any problem that we face is solvable within the One Small Town initiative. I've got 2 pages filled with ideas and concepts that I wanted to discuss with you and bring up today. We're going to talk about building bridges. We're going to talk about money and a little bit more about money because it is really the thing that keeps us enslaved, right? So it's such an evil tool of manipulation. On the one hand, it feels like it gives us freedom and it gives us allows us to do certain things, and on the other side of the scale, it actually keeps us enslaved and imprisoned in this socio-economic financial systems that we've created for ourselves in the world, or that were created for us. It all depends how you see it and how you look at it. Right, we're going to possibly, if we have time, we're going to talk about contributionism versus other systems like, capitalism, fascism, communism, etc., socialism. And we talk about how things change once we get into the One Small Town mindset and we live in One Small Town communities, how things change and how things shift around, literally how everything changes because of the situation we find ourselves in. And that's a beautiful thought. And we're going to talk about planning, the implementation, the challenges, the things we've learned. So this is what I've got on my menu today, and we'll start going through it and see how far we get. I'm not going to do any questions today because there just weren't any new questions. All the questions that were asked on the questionnaire that I sent out are already answered on our Q&A videos on our website. So before I even kick off with consciousness or going to Mars, let me just say, if you have any questions about One Small Town, please go onto our website, onesmalltown.org, go onto Q&A, questions, and watch all the videos. You can watch videos. There are many videos that I've made over the years, and you can also read some of the answers. So they're both videos and written answers to questions that have been posed over an extended period. As I mentioned before, I do my best to update those videos from time to time because One Small Town is a living philosophy. It keeps growing, evolving, and improving and getting better. So things do shift, and we do upgrade and improve things that we do, or change our mind because we try something and it didn't work. So we fix it, improve it, and relaunch it and do it better. So things do change. So the videos get updated from time to time. And that's how you can see that this is a living, breathing, organic thing that we're building here. We're building this together. It's not just me coming up with crazy ideas and going, wow, this is what you must do. We're learning from the different One Small Towns that we've started or we've tried to start, that we got very, very close to really launching that first Cinderella One Small Town. By the way, that's what I'm calling it, the first One Small Town that's really going to kick in with all the different parameters, with the community upliftment programs, with the business plans, everything working together, the memberships, there's the 3-hour contributions, the benefits that get distributed every week, every month to all our members, and all these things. So, what I started doing is calling that first town that really clicks and becomes that role model and the blueprint that we're going to end up using for every other future One Small Town. I'm starting to call that the Cinderella One Small Town. And we are very, very close. We're edging closer and closer every week to that first Cinderella One Small Town. Right, so let's talk about consciousness, first of all. Consciousness is a very important aspect of life, of creation, of who we are, why we're here. You know, one of my favorite statements and quotes about consciousness actually comes from one of the greatest scientists and physicists that's ever lived, and that's Max Planck, you know, the Nobel Prize award-winning scientist, physicist, Max Planck in the 20s and 30s, when he started to study subatomic particles and the electron, and he discovered the quantum leap, discovered how electrons move from one energetic level to another energetic level. And the fascinating thing was that Max Planck realized that the electron doesn't move between the different levels, that the electron actually just disappears in this level and reappears at another level, a higher energetic level. So the electron either goes higher, goes into a higher energetic state, or it drops down into a lower energetic state. And it does that instantaneously. It doesn't move. It doesn't take any time to traverse that. So that was a very important discovery. And that in itself holds untold amounts of knowledge and wisdom about the nature of our reality. This whole thing that Max Planck discovered about the quantum leap is absolutely staggering, because that seems to apply to everything in our lives. But the statement that Max Planck made that is hardly ever used is that everything comes from consciousness. You cannot get behind consciousness. You cannot escape consciousness. Everything is a consequence of consciousness. Everything seen and unseen in the physical and the non-tangible world. Because consciousness is behind every particle, every atom, every molecule, every subatomic particle, every electron and photon, everything we've studied and discovered in science and physics and quantum mechanics. That is a huge statement from someone like Max Planck. He really got it. He truly understood it. Now, you might be aware that I've delved very deeply into the nature of reality and the science and the physics behind toroidal fields and torsion fields and quantum mechanics. And it's a favorite subject of mine. I love talking about that, because much of what we are taught at school is not necessarily always true about physics and, you know, the speed of light and all these kind of things. But that I don't want to, you know, jump tracks here. I want to bring you back to this thing called consciousness. If everything comes from consciousness, and consciousness comes from God, or is the breath of God, or is a prerequisite for life and for creation. If consciousness is the first thing that leaves the mind of the Creator, that brings forth everything in creation, then consciousness is something that we really need to embrace and try and understand or comprehend what it is, how it affects us, how it affects our lives, our physical body, our ethereal body, our brain, our thinking, our relationship, our connection to each other, and how it affects our capacity to imagine things and imagine a better, more beautiful, more harmonious world in which peace, unity, harmony, prosperity, and abundance thrive on every level. Now, consciousness has its own levels. There are different various levels of consciousness. The easiest way that I've always explained that is that, like everything in creation, is a level is a function of vibration, resonance, and frequency. And we experience it as sound here on our planet, in the air that we breathe and the density that we find ourselves in. So imagine your radio dial, right? The old radios that we used to have, when you could turn the dial and actually move between the different radio stations, or TV channels. You used to be able to scroll and go scan the different frequencies and pick up different radio and TV channels. When you are on a certain frequency and you pick up a certain radio channel, that's it. You only pick up that one radio channel. Now imagine that that is a level of consciousness. You find yourself at that level of consciousness, and you experience the sound and the music and the visuals, whether it's a radio station or a TV channel. You'll be experiencing what you get at that level of consciousness that's coming at you, that you can plug into, to interact with. This is not really how it is, I guess, but this is just the simplest, most basic, fundamental way of me trying to explain how people at the same level of consciousness resonate with each other. They connect with each other, and they understand each other. They comprehend. Sometimes you meet a complete stranger and you just feel that you get on like a house on fire. It's just so beautiful. Maybe I shouldn't use that expression, a house on fire. That you get on like two siblings that have known each other forever, right? And you just feel like you click, like you've known each other forever. That is definitely an indication that you resonate on a very similar or the same kind of bandwidth within which your personal level of consciousness seems to sit. Those frequencies that you relate to. The moment you switch to another radio channel somewhere else, you've gone out of that level, out of that frequency. And you may not like the music or the programming on these other frequencies. So you will be in dissonance. You're not going to be coherent with these other frequencies on these other channels. You're going to want to come back to the channel that resonates with you, to the sounds and the frequencies and the soothing music or the information that you're getting or the visuals that you're getting from a specific channel. So consciousness works on the same level, in the same way. That's how I have imagined it and how I've explained it, and it certainly helped a lot of people to try and figure this thing out. So it's definitely the case is definite, can be made. Let me put it this way: the case can be made for the higher the consciousness, the higher the level of consciousness that we find in people and in groups of people, the easier it is for them to get on, the easier it is for them to communicate, and the easier it is for them to solve problems and do things and get things done. It's not always the case, but that seems to be the case. Now, levels of consciousness have got nothing to do with your race or the level of, or the job that you do, or your or what sort of social class you come from. You know, do you come from a poor family on the so-called wrong side of the tracks, right? Or are you a privileged child from or a privileged human that comes from a wealthy family? This has got nothing to do with it. You get very wealthy people that have got very low consciousness, and you get people that you meet that live on the street, that you have a conversation with, and you realize, my goodness, this person is so switched on. They're so plugged in and so clued in. They get what's going on. They seem to resonate with the world around them. They seem to be connected to the nature of reality and the information that we get from the world around us. And remember that we're connected to everything. The vibrational energy and frequencies is connected to us. It's connected to us through our skin, our DNA. You know, now I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, right? I said I was going to go down various rabbit holes, but, you know, I've got to stop myself going down the rabbit hole of vibration, resonance, and frequency, since it is one of my favorite subjects, because once you comprehend that, you can pretty much explain everything in creation, everything in the universe that we face and the problems that we come up with, and you know how to find the solutions for it. That's what I find so exciting about this specific study. And it is this specific study that has brought me, that has allowed me and given me the joy of helping to develop the One Small Town initiative from its humble beginnings in 2005, where I started to comprehend money and what money is and how money is used and introduced to us since childhood, and how we just grow up with money and imagine that it's the only thing that we can do. So we have to use money. And then you realize that, well, we don't really need money because money does nothing. People do everything, right? Remember that very important statement. Nearly said famous statement. I can't really say that because I came up with that statement. So I won't say it's famous, but it's certainly a statement that I've used for many, many years. Money does nothing. People do everything. You can put $1 billion in the middle of a football field, and you can fill that football field with people, and $1 billion sitting in the middle of the football field. Nothing is going to happen. The money is gonna do nothing. It's only when the people get up and decide they're going to do something that things begin to happen. Please let that sink in. So when I make a statement like money does nothing, people do everything. We don't need money, we need each other. It's a very important statement that has got higher levels of comprehension and high levels of consciousness. It's allowing us to reach those conclusions. However, we are stuck in this world where we're told that money makes the world go round. And as far as we can see, it seems like money makes the world go round. And we believe it. Many of us believe that money makes the world go round. It is merely a tool and a carrot to inspire us to do something. It's like a reward system. Like, if you're a good boy or a good girl and you do this, you're going to earn all this money. But it's just a little flick of the switch and a little flip of the mind switch. And you can start thinking very differently about how we can replace money with different motivational tools, different aspects of our lives. And we can achieve more greatness. We can achieve much more than if we're chasing money. So while the One Small Town initiative has two very specific components to it, and that, I guess it's like the yin yang, right? It's the positive and negative. It's a toroidal field, toroidal magnetic energies that work towards each other, and together they create that incredibly powerful magnetic cohesive torsion field that keeps our community in unity, tightly bound, tightly knit, because we're working with the current system, the financial, social, economic system, and we're working on the other side with the humanitarian system, with the growing, the developing, uplifting, and improving our community, where we don't need to be paid. We're doing it because we choose to do it. We're doing it because we love to do it. We want to see our towns and our cities, I guess, our towns and our villages thrive, and we want them to be beautiful, filled with arts and culture and recreation and sporting activities and so much more, right? All the good stuff that we want, all the beautiful stuff, the utopian world that we want to find ourselves in. So the One Small Town brings these two worlds together, but ultimately it is the higher the consciousness, the higher we raise ourselves into higher levels of consciousness, the higher the more we absorb and reach higher levels of consciousness. It's a funny thing. It's like you can't push yourself to reach higher levels of consciousness. You open yourself up to it. You become inquisitive. You ask questions. You don't close yourself off and believe that you know everything. You have to stay open hearts, open minds, embracing knowledge and information, stuff that might make you feel uncomfortable, and so forth and so forth. So consciousness is such a mind-blowing thing to contemplate, because I don't think we're actually wired enough at this stage with our DNA. I don't think enough part of our DNA is switched on for us to truly comprehend consciousness. So enough of that. I hope that I've gotten this thing across, that we need to elevate our consciousness and open ourselves to new ideas, And that brings us into a state of far more peaceful, open-minded state of being open to other ideas, new ideas, new opportunities, and so forth. And it's got nothing to do with your class or your income or what social class you might come from and so forth. It's all about you personally as an individual, how you open yourself up to receiving this knowledge and information from creation, from God, from the Creator that imbues everything with consciousness. And one small town, I'd like to make that very clear. One small town is a consequence of embracing higher levels of consciousness, looking for solutions for this crazy world that very few people are happy with, that very few people believe is going in the right direction. And I believe that the more people reach higher levels of consciousness, the more successful the One Small Town initiative is going to be. What does help is, and now we get into the discussion of politics. And by the way, if you're watching, please send me a message and say hi on Facebook, because we're not going out live on anything else. So say hello to me. I see Leslie. Say hello, Leslie. Hello, Stellar. And I saw my friend Zach Haynes there. And great to see you guys here. And let's continue. So obviously, there's a lot of politics going on in the world right now between the USA, the new president, the new government in the USA, and all the stuff that's going crazy in the USA. It's like watching a new race or something remarkable that's just happening there. Things are just happening, right? Whether you agree with it or don't agree with it, I must admit I'm a lot more comfortable with what's going on right now than what was going on before. But unfortunately, it's politics. And what's going on in Russia, in the Ukraine, what's going on in China, what's going on in South Africa, with what the government is just trying to do in South Africa, which is unimaginable, unconscionable. And I'm not going to get sucked into that, because for the very simple reason, the moment you get sucked into politics, you get sucked into a system of division, of opposition. And that's what politics is. I'm sure that the people that came up originally with the whole idea of politics and different political parties and the idea of democracy and majority rule and all these kind of things, they knew exactly what they were doing, because on paper and in theory, it sounds like, wow, that sounds like a good idea, right? So, yeah, so we'll have different parties and different individuals and we'll promote different ideals and all that. And then, if I win, then I'm going to be the president. I'm going to push my ideals. But what about those that don't like my ideals? What about, if 49% of the people don't like what I have to say, but 51% of the people agree with me. So now it's like it becomes a bullying tactic. So there's 51 of us and 49 of you. So it's going to be our way or the highway, and screw you if you don't like it. Politics is not a solution. And I know this because I was involved in politics with the Ubuntu Party in South Africa, in Australia, in the UK, in Canada, and almost in the USA between 2010 and 2016. We ran in South Africa in 3 elections, 2012, 2014, and 2016. 2012 was entry level as the Ubuntu Party. I really just had a taste of it, didn't do anything. 2014 was big. That was big news. It was a big deal. In essence, I ran for president with the Ubuntu Party. I was a leader of the Ubuntu Party. We ran in the national elections. And if we had won, if the Ubuntu Party had won the national elections, I would have been president. That's how it works in this country, right? So I learned how absolutely disgusting and corrupt the political arena is. I'm not going to go into details, but that's what gave me the deep, complete understanding of how politics is a disgusting, vile, toxic environment of opposition, of backstabbing, of dividing the people into different camps that oppose each other, and then they start to attack each other and in some cases start to kill each other. This is horrible. We don't want to create a system where people oppose each other. Surely we want a system where people cooperate and collaborate. And now into that, if you want people to cooperate and collaborate, surely you want a system that provides for that cooperation and collaboration, does not provide for, we'll oppose you to try and stop you, etc., etc. And this is where the One Small Town initiative came out of all this, I guess, experience and first-hand knowledge and first-hand experience, having gone through that. So politics is not a solution, but if one small town is going to be successful and successful sooner than later, it certainly helps if we have humanitarian and good-hearted politicians in the position of power. So if we have humanitarians as presidents or prime ministers, people that want to do good for their people, for their supporters, for their country, those are the kind of politicians we want in power and in control, because they're going to make it a lot easier. They're going to deregulate all the bureaucratic red tape and crap and all that to make it easier for people to survive, to people to reach success, people to start initiatives, growing food, irrigating their food, starting businesses, companies, innovation, technology, releasing technology that might threaten democracy. It might threaten the capitalist control of certain technologies, whether it's electricity or free energy, or whether it's cures for cancer, all these things. You should know what I'm talking about by now. I've been talking about this for nearly 2 decades. And if you're new to this, then please go back and watch some of my videos from 15 years ago where we already discussed this thing. So it's a lot easier for One Small Town to succeed when we have humanitarian leaders in the leadership positions in our countries. And it'll just make it so much easier to set up for One Small Towns to spring up all over the place without being threatened by draconian controlling governments and leaders who try and reduce our rights, curtail our liberties and our freedoms, and make new laws and bylaws and etc. that prevent us from using water, that prevent us from traveling, that prevent us from doing XY, prevent us from building, prevent us from farming, prevent us from doing all kinds of things. It's crazy what's going on. Just think about the rules and regulations and the laws and bylaws that our governments have created to stop us from doing things and achieving things. And this brings me to the next subject called freedom. How free do you think we really are? How much freedom do you have? How much freedom do you think you have? Well, have you ever tried to leave your country and go to another country? Good luck. We need passports. We need birth certificates. Then we need to become citizens and residents at some stage. So when you're born, you're given this birth certificate that tells you that you're now property of a certain government, because a certificate means that you're a property. You're certifying that you are property or possession of some institution or organization. That's how you get a certificate. Otherwise, why do I need a certificate from the government? So again, that becomes a whole other philosophical debate and a question. And I know that some people have all kinds of arguments against that. So you're born, you're a little baby, you get a birth certificate. And then at some stage in certain countries, you then get an ID document. By the time you turn 16 or 18 or 21, all depends what country you live in, you then get given an ID document with your ID number and your name and all the details. And then you have to present that ID document when you start doing things. So now you're already restricted by who you are, the country that you live in, and if you want to go to another country, you need a passport and a visa. And now try and apply for a visa. Sometimes that's a bloody nightmare to get a visa or apply for a visa because you want to go visit somebody in another country. Farmers are restricted from growing food. Farmers are restricted from getting water to water their crops. You're prevented from doing certain things or manufacturing certain things. The rules and regulations created by our servants, the governments, are insane. Now, surely, If we appoint our governments and our political representatives to be our servants, how do we put up and why do we put up with our servants making rules and laws and regulations and restrictions that curtail our freedoms, curtail our rights, and prevent us from reaching abundance and prosperity? Our appointed leaders or servants, our government officials, should be doing everything we want them to do, not what they want to do. So the current system we have is so fatally flawed, it is broken to the point where it cannot be fixed. And I know that Elon Musk and many other people, including me, many years ago, I was already saying we should be voting on certain things that we want on a daily and a weekly basis. There should be an app or some sort of a place that you go and log in with your ID number so there can only be one of you, and you go and vote for certain things that we want. Like water rights for farmers. I mean, that surely should be, there should be no debate about that. Every farmer should have rights to find water and use water to water their crops. Obviously, with certain rules that they may not steal water from their neighbors and all that stuff, but those things have been in place for a long, long time. Generally speaking, farmers work together because they have to rely on each other and support each other. But our governments have come in and they've put restrictions that farmers can't get water, so they can't farm, they can't survive, their crops die. Look what happened in California now, where they diverted the water so that the rest of Southern California from the north didn't get any water. I don't know enough about the detail, but I know that's a big problem. I'm using that as an example. I don't want to get into a long argument with people about that, but that's just one example how politicians and people in power make decisions that have certainly we don't want as people, and we would never do if we were able to make decisions on a daily or weekly basis and make our governments do what we want, not what they want, or what the lobbyists and large corporations that have influence over the government basically force our appointed leaders to do, right? So by now we know that there are many lobbying groups, many lobbyists, many powerful corporations that seem to influence our governments, and some would use the word control our governments. Many influential people, individuals, whether it's George Soros or Bill Gates and others like that. Please be aware that everything we're doing at One Small Town is pulling ourselves away from that so that we can create that autonomy and prosperity and abundance, and hopefully a feeling of much higher levels of sovereignty and much higher levels of freedom, sovereignty, free will, and making us actually have a feeling that we are not restricted and our human rights have not been curtailed and restricted to the way it's been restricted at the moment. So that's really how politics and consciousness and then the rules and regulations and all affect our freedom. So if you think you're free, think again. Freedom of choice. Just because, some people say, well, I'm free. I can do whatever I want. I can jump in my car. I can drive to Durban, or I can drive to California. I can drive over there. I can drive across the UK. I can drive across Australia. Well, you might be able to do that today, but the way things are going, some of you might already be aware they're trying to restrict those freedoms of you just being able to get in your car and drive wherever you want in your country. And in Europe and in the EU now, it's quite easy for people to jump in their car and drive from France to Italy or to Poland or wherever, and it's become relatively easy. But those are illusions of freedom. Those are a set of rules and set of options that we've been given, and choices and options. Like, you can have hamburger with chips, or you can have a cheeseburger, or you can have a, chicken burger or whatever. You can have coleslaw with the burger, but so these are all the options that and the choices that we've been given. That's not really freedom. And sometimes we we mistake it for freedom. That's not freedom. The moment you try and live on a piece of land and you put up solar panels and your government tells you that you're not allowed to put up solar panels, or you're not allowed to bring your own electricity to your town. Just think about this. Our towns and our municipalities and our governments are preventing us from supplying our own electricity to our own towns. How is that a service to the people? How is that a right that our servants in government should have? Surely that is an absolute abuse of power, and we the people need to do everything we can to start chipping away at that through the power of the people. Remember that the power always lies with the people, and we keep forgetting that. We keep forgetting that the power lies with us. Hello, Lucy. Hello, Stellar. Hello, Leslie. We forget that the power lies with us. So, just let's relate this. Imagine you have a big house and you have a servant or a house cleaner. Let's not use the word servant. That's not a nice word. I don't like that word. Let's use the word, you have a housekeeper that comes in every day to clean your house and wash your house because you're too busy running your businesses or doing whatever it is you're doing. So you need a housekeeper to keep your house clean, things, and keep it going so that you can keep doing your work. And at the same time, you also have a gardener that comes in and does your garden. So these are the people that you've appointed as your servants, right? Like we've appointed our politicians as our servants. Now you go away for a month, you go on holiday, you come home, and you get to the gate, and suddenly your remote control doesn't open your gate. So you phone the house, and the housekeeper answers the phone and says, "Hi, hello, Michael. Oh, you're back. Oh, okay. Right. So," and you say, "Well, please open the gate. What's going on? Why is the gate not opening?" And your housekeeper says, "Well, I'm sorry, Michael, before I let you in, there's some new rules that we've laid down here in the house while you're away. You know, you're away for a month and things changed. We've taken control of the house and there's some new rules that you're going to have to abide by." What are you going to do as the person that appointed your servants to look after your property being your country, right? So let's use the analogy here. Your property is now, let's see that as your country, and you are the people. You represent the people of your country. You come home and suddenly your servants have taken control and they make you pay to enter your own property. They've changed the code on the remote control of the gate. And you get into the house and you want to take a shower and there's no water. And your housekeeper servant says, "Oh, no, sorry, you're going to have to pay for the water. We've put water meters on, so you can't just use the water anymore. You're going to have to pay every time you use the shower or water and so forth." And then you want to, boil a kettle or run the heaters and they want to charge you for using that. Just imagine if that happened. How would you react and respond? You would fire your servants. You would get rid of them. They'd be out. But we can't do that. We seem not to be able to do that with our politicians. So we appoint our politicians as servants. They do a bunch of stuff that we completely disagree with. We actually, as the people, get so livid and so mad to the point that we want to riot and burn things down or stage a coup. But we don't do that because we're law-abiding citizens and we allow our servants to hijack our country and do things that we would never allow them to do if we had full control of our country and full control of our government. And if they truly were our servants, they would never do these things that we don't want them to do. Now, I know I've gone down a little bit of a rabbit hole here because this is a rabbit hole I've been dealing with for 20 years. The abuse of power by literally every government on earth. One small town is a nice, gentle way for us to move away from that abuse of power without any violence, opposition, or conflict, without rioting and causing harm to anyone or anything. One small town takes us from this abusive system that we find ourselves in, by using the tools of enslavement that they've put into place to entrap us, enslave us, and control us, by using these tools of enslavement as tools of liberation. So we take everything and the laws they've created, and we find ways to make those laws and rules work for us as the people. And that's what we do with One Small Town. All along, we do that in larger communities, working together, growing in numbers. And the more we grow in numbers, the more our power grows. Because once again, the power lies with the people. Our governments are the servants of the people. So the more we grow in numbers and the more we grow in financial wealth in our small towns, the more easy it is for us to achieve our goals through all kinds of means. Whether it's simply asserting people power and having a march or a protest, peaceful protest to say, we don't like what you're doing, you better change what you're doing. And hopefully, by then those who believe they're in control will listen and do what the people want. Or by simply becoming so powerful financially that you can start influencing the lobbyists to the governments that are causing the trouble, and doing it various ways, using very expensive lawyers that can protect us and argue our cause in the courts and our arguments in court. So the more successful we become, whether we grow in numbers or we grow in financial strength, and both, the easier it is for us to reach what we want to reach and achieve what we want to achieve. And that's why I call it, we use the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation. And we creating One Small Town initiatives without any violence, opposition, or conflict. We're creating a new social structure that will make the existing social structure obsolete. As more and more people migrate to the One Small Town mentality, the more people open their minds and hearts to elevate their levels of consciousness, to realize that we can't continue on the path we're on. There is no good outcome on the path we're on right now. There is no good outcome. If you think somehow that our politicians are going to figure things out and they're going to make life beautiful for us, and they're going to get rid of all the draconian rules and laws and nonsense that they've put in our way, all the hurdles to progress and hurdles to success, if you think that that's going to happen, then you need some serious psychiatric intervention and possibly a lobotomy. I say that with love in my heart, right? That was a joke. So there is no solution. There is no good outcome for the way the current governments and the current system that is in the world, with the central banks, with how they control the governments in every country and so forth. So the One Small Town is the alternative. It is the seed of consciousness that can be planted in every community, that without any violence, opposition, or conflict, we as people can collectively come together. And we choose what we want to do. No one is telling us what to do. One Small Town is not my thing. So if you support One Small Town, it's not you supporting Michael Tillinger's company or Michael Tillinger's business or Michael Tillinger's. No, it's got nothing to do with me. I don't benefit from what you succeeding with One Small Town in your community. I don't benefit from that at all. You benefit from that. It is your initiative. So please start seeing One Small Town as your initiative. You as an individual who has grasped and embraced it, who understands it and really the nuts and bolts of it, spend more time reading, learning, watching videos, imagining what you're going to do, how you're going to start your businesses, how are you going to write your business plans? How are you going to start up your community upliftment programs? How are you going to get your community kitchen going and the One Small Town store? How are you going to use the infinity tokens to help everybody get benefits without having to earn fiat currency? And that's another very important thing. Fiat currency. Our very simple way to reduce our dependency on fiat currency, whether it's dollars, pounds, yen, euros, South African rand. I have to mention South African rand because this is where I am talking to you from South Africa. So we're affected dramatically by the fluctuation of currencies around the world. You see, now there's another rabbit hole. Another rabbit hole. We're taking ourselves gently and quietly, without any violence, opposition, or conflict, by using the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation and setting up our small towns of abundance and prosperity by starting businesses, by generating as much profit as we can collectively because we own those businesses. It's not owned by some external company that employs us as their slaves. We write the business plans, we start the businesses. The businesses in our town and community belong to us. So we will never put ourselves out of work. We're not going to fire ourselves and land up homeless and jobless on the street. So once we start with one small town and it starts to grow and mushroom, there'll be more and more businesses, more and more profits. So we are making fiat currency. We are making rands, pounds, euros, dollars. But at the same time, we're building up our community because we choose to. We're making it as beautiful as we can. We're boosting sports, arts, culture, recreation. We are fixing the roads. We are fixing the infrastructure. We are starting companies across a whole diverse spectrum of sectors, from agriculture and food growing and food processing and food packaging and the distribution of healthy food and so much more. Seeds, seed banks, etc., etc. I need to repeat this over and over again because if you've not heard this before, it might trigger something and you might suddenly go, oh, yes, the penny has dropped for me. I see what you mean. I see how this can be so successful. And I understand how it will be successful because it is an integrated, cohesive community upliftment program. Everything fits into everything else and everything works together to make the community stronger, better, more financially wealthy, more spiritually wealthy, more united, and so much more. There was something that I mentioned. Oh, the currency, the fiat currency. You know, here's an interesting thing. If you just go back in history, go back, the last 100, 200 years, and you look at which was the strongest currency in the world for virtually as long as we have had these currencies around. And you look at the British pound, the Great Britain pound, the GBP, British pound. The British pound has been the strongest currency in the world for virtually as long and as far back as you can go, right? There may have been a moment here and there that might have dropped and some other currency came in briefly, but the British pound has been the strongest currency in the world for as long as you can go back in time. If you found some other currency, please share that with me. I would love to find that out. So you got to ask yourself, how is it possible that this little island there next to Europe called Great Britain has had the strongest currency in the world with all these great empires around the world, whether it's the Russian Empire that goes back, who knows, 1,200 years or maybe more, whether it's the ancient Irish ancestors and the Romans and whatever, the Mongolians and so forth. So how is it possible that the British pound has been the strongest currency in the world for so long? And you realize who's been running the world and controlling the global financial systems, right? Now, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole now. How long have we got? Wow, we've already been going for 50 minutes. I don't want to go down the fiat currency rabbit hole. I've discussed that in previous videos and so forth, and I will discuss it again. But keep in mind, that's what controls all the central banks of the world are controlled from the city of London, from the city of London, not London, the city of London, that square mile in the middle of London town, London, called the City of London, with its own mayor, with its own coat of arms. That's where the main head offices of all the central banks are, the Rothschild global banking empire. And then obviously the next level down is in Basel, Switzerland, where the Bank for International Settlements, the BIS, sits, um, and um, and that's how they control every central bank of the world. Right. We have a solution for it. One Small Town is a solution. Um, I want to quickly talk about something very interesting. Since we're talking about money and the control of money, obviously we've created the One Small Town Infinity token, our community asset-backed token that is a private membership token that belongs to the One Small Town initiative around the world. One Small Town initiative is a private membership that all you got to do is go on onesmalltown.org, sign up as a member, and you're part of the club. You're a member, a global member. You don't have to live in a small town, right, to be a One Small Town member. Anyone in the world can become a One Small Town member right now. Go online, sign up, become a member. Then what you should do immediately, log onto your membership account and buy tokens. Buy as many Infinity tokens as you can. And I can't stress that enough, because the Infinity token is an asset-backed token that nothing like it exists in the world. It belongs to the One Small Town community. It is not a cryptocurrency. It is a private membership reward system that we call the Infinity token. And we create those tokens every time we contribute 3 hours of our sweat equity towards uplifting or doing something in our community, whether it's growing food, whether it's cleaning streets, whether it's filling potholes, whether it's working for 3 hours in an engineering factory or a bicycle factory or a furniture factory or a laptop factory, or work or collecting food in the fields, harvesting food or packaging food. Whatever it is that you do as a member of One Small Town for your community, you earn an Infinity token for every 3 hours that you've contributed. So that's why it is an asset-backed, sweat equity-backed, private membership community token. This is very, very powerful. We have created the platform that every member can use his or her tokens and send those tokens to anybody else that you want to share it with, as long as they are a One Small Town member. They will have their One Small Town digital wallet. You can send them Infinity tokens instantly for free directly to their digital wallet. So the Infinity token is an alternative means of exchange, an alternative means of trade that operates privately within the One Small Town membership worldwide. You can trade a car, you can trade a painting, you can trade a house, you can trade a bag of corn flour or sugar or water, bicycle, you can trade clothes, you can trade anything with each other, as long as you're a member and you have some Infinity tokens in your digital wallet. The more we grow in numbers as One Small Town members, the more that value of the token also grows, and it will eventually reach $40. But I don't want to go into the semantics of the pricing and all that. I've gone through that before. There's an algorithm that calculates it. So anyone, anywhere in the world can become a member of One Small Town right now. You don't have to live in a small town to be a member. Go and get yourself some tokens. And what I also recommend is, if you can afford it, if you've got enough, then buy a subscription for the current price of the Infinity token. Get yourself a subscription online on our platform. Buy a subscription for 12 months, because then you pay that amount every month. So if you say you can afford to buy 10 tokens a month or 100 tokens a month or 1,000 tokens a month, all depends how much money you have, how wealthy you are. Buy a subscription for 12 months, and then you'll get the tokens every month at the same price that you started paying, no matter what happens to the price of the token. And if the token suddenly starts going up very quickly, like it did for the first 2 years since we've launched it, or a year and a half, whenever, the token price just kept going up and up and up and up very quickly. As the members joined us and we started to do all kinds of things, the price went up. That's driven by the algorithm. So if you buy a subscription of Infinity tokens, you'll pay the same price that you paid at the beginning when you take out that subscription. So you might buy it at $5, which I believe it's going up to now at the end of this month. We're going to go just over $5. Started at $1, I think just 2 years ago, whenever we launched it. And it's now at $5. So if you buy it at $5, it might be at $10 a year from now. All of this is all part of the growing global One Small Town community. Sooner or later, the Infinity token is going to become the new Bitcoin. but in a far more stable, protected way, and then protected in a stable environment than any other cryptocurrency out there. Remember, Infinity is not a cryptocurrency. It is not traded in open stock exchanges and open markets and so forth. So no one can crash it. No one can dump, 1 million tokens and crash the whole price. That can never happen. You can never lose your tokens. Like if you have them in some weird wallet on a flash drive and you lose that, that's it. Your crypto is gone. You can never lose your Infinity tokens. They're in it's like having a bank account with a private membership with One Small Town. The platform and the blockchain controls everything. There are backups and everyone, the system knows exactly how many tokens you have in your digital wallet. So the Infinity token is going to become the new Bitcoin. It's just a matter of time. Remember, it took Bitcoin 10 years to really kick in. We're now in year 2.5, maybe year 2, or sorry, approaching year 3 of One Small Town Infinity token. I believe that, not I believe, the moment the first Cinderella One Small Town kicks in, and our members are actually contributing their 3 hours a day, 3 hours a week. Our factories are working, our farms are working, people are earning their tokens. They're exchanging their tokens at the One Small Town store for all kinds of goods. They're trading other things with other people around the world. You might pay a lawyer in LA to do a contract for you while you sit in Australia or Italy. And you pay that lawyer in LA in Infinity tokens because you both One Small Town members. So people start using Infinity tokens in all kinds of ways that we can't predict right now. So what I've been saying is start using Infinity tokens the way that so many people that were excited about Bitcoin did in the beginning. At the bottom of your invoices, put, whatever the amount is, say $100, and say, I also accept Infinity tokens, put your digital wallet number there. And so people be wondering, wow, what is an Infinity token? And they'll go find out. They say, wow, and sign up and get more Infinity tokens. And very soon people start paying each other instead of in dollars and pounds. Members will start paying each other with Infinity tokens. And that's when things begin to change very, very quickly, especially in our small towns. When the community kitchen is up and running, when the One Small Town store is up and running, and we have food being distributed on the shelves of the One Small Town store, whether it's food, clothing, technology, everything, anything you can imagine, that our members can come and trade and exchange for their tokens. That day is coming, and we're getting closer and closer to that day. So now I've gone through all of these things. I've gone through politics, I've gone through consciousness, and politics and freedom. We've spoken about freedom. And where are we? I also want to say, once again, just to remind you, think about the problems that you have in your town. Think about the problems you have in your country. And then imagine that you live in a town where we're all doing this, or you live in a country where One Small Town is prevalent, and it's One Small Towns are scattered all over the country. Think about how easy it is to solve the problems that we face within the One Small Town mentality, within the One Small Town cooperative mindset, where we do things together, where we choose we're going to build a bridge. We don't have to worry about getting permits and regulations that prevent us from building a bridge. So I want to go back, and that's the other thing, like imagine you live in a community, you need to build a bridge across the river, and suddenly it's a regulation. No, you can't build a bridge across the river. Are you serious? We, the community, need a bridge to go across the river. So these are all the things. And the building of the bridge is really important, because that's also a great example of how you can show people that we don't need money, we need each other, right? How money does nothing and people do everything. However, in this world, the more money we have, the easier it becomes to do things. So just a reminder, we are not creating a town without money or communities without money. We're creating communities of abundance and prosperity. And that abundance is in all spheres. starting with abundance of money so that we can do things and achieve things because we have money to pay for it. And we might need lawyers, and we need business planners and project managers and architects and equipment and so forth. We can't buy tractors and machinery and technology with infinity tokens. Not now. We need money to buy that with. But who knows? Maybe, 2 or 3 years from now, the guys that make tractors might want to prefer to be paid in infinity tokens, like they would prefer to be paid in Bitcoin, and everything will change. So now imagine, this is a great example that I use with the pioneers. Imagine the pioneers, the food trackers in South Africa, and the pioneers in the USA and Canada and Australia and all the different parts of the world. And now I don't mean the ugly side of pioneers where they abused locals, so don't go down that rabbit hole. Let's talk about people exploring, new worlds, trying to find a beautiful life and a beautiful world for themselves and their families and their community. And they riding on horseback or cattle and ox wagons and whatever, and they get to a bridge. I mean, so they get to a river. Right now they get to a river and they go, okay, what now? We're going to have to build a bridge. So what do? Are they going to go looking for the nearest local authority to say, listen, we need a permit to build a bridge? Are they going to go look for a bank to give them money so they can buy material to build a bridge? These guys are in the middle of nowhere. They have to take care of themselves. These guys are the guys that knew how to get things done. And in South Africa, we have a great expression called a boer maak 'n plan. And let me tell you, the more you get to know the boere in South Africa, the farmers, the ancestors, or the ancestors, the the children of the ancestors that migrated from Cape Town, that did all these amazing things. And I'm talking about a specific group of people in South Africa, because I can understand that, because that's my sort of mental background. It's got nothing to do with race or apartheid or anything like that. This is practical solutions, right? So you get a bunch of people, they're sitting at the river. We say, we need to build a bridge. So you're not going to be looking for bankers or permits or permission or governments or whatever. You're going to find the people in your community, the engineers, the architects, the builders that know how to build a bridge. And you're going to get the stonemasons and you're going to carve the stone. You're going to start laying the foundations and the cornerstones in place, and you're going to build the bridge. With people that know how to build a bridge, you're not going to get DEI to build a bridge, because that bridge will collapse. You're going to get the best people that know how to build a bridge. And that's the most amazing thing. And that's how they used to build the bridges. The most amazing bridges that we still find standing today after thousands of years. Those bridges still stand. Some of them were paid for, obviously, by the Roman Empire, by the different empires and so forth. But there are still many bridges around the world that were built by people that were in small communities trying to escape persecution, trying to escape tyranny from tyrannical governments or authorities of the time. We have many examples like that. So we now build a bridge. So now we've got a bridge. We've created a settlement this side of the river, and we've got our forestry on the other side of the river. And we now can transport the wood and the lumber from the hill on that side across the bridge to our town. And we start building and doing all kinds of industries with the wood. And now we got a shortcut to the forest. We don't have to go several miles and around to get to the other side. That's why we built the bridge, because we need it for our success. So here's a very important question. At which point do we as a community that build that bridge, at which point do we start charging ourselves to use that bridge? You know what the answer is. Never. At no point, at no time, do we start charging ourselves to use that bridge. That would be the most ludicrous, stupid thing to do. We built that bridge so we can create prosperity and abundance and success for ourselves and make it easy for ourselves. So the fact that our governments are allowing companies to build things in our countries that we then have to pay for, that we should be getting built for ourselves, so that it make those things, like whether it's bridges, whether it's roads, whether it's anything to do with making our lives better, beautiful, more abundant and prosperous, we should not be charged for that. Our governments are our servants. They must find ways of doing that, whether it's through our tax money or whether it's through us getting together like the Amish and we build a barn in one bloody day. And if you haven't seen that yet, if you haven't seen the Amish, people build a huge, monstrous barn in one day, 24 hours. I highly recommend you watch that. It is one of the most inspiring and motivational videos you'll ever see. If that is not an inspiring video, I tell you, I just get so excited. I get emotional. I get tears in my eyes, because that's how we should be working. I'm not necessarily fond of the Amish religious beliefs and the clothes they wear and so forth, but I love the way the Amish work together and do things and achieve things. So I think we've covered quite a lot today. Gone down a few rabbit holes here and there. And in continuation, I think I'm going to do two more things. What's the time? It's almost 10 past. So I'll tell you two more important anecdotal things to realize how important the One Small Town initiative is to get us out of the stranglehold, out of the control, out of the system, allowing us to grow, to build, to do what we need, using our own membership token, and not 100% dependent on fiat currencies, that we can actually trade and exchange within our community without having to earn dollars or pounds or whatever. And that will create even more abundance. So here's an example about the futility of money and the insanity of money. And I've shared this with in many of my lectures and workshops over the years. And then I'll go on to our mission to Mars. And we're going to colonize Mars, and we're going to go through the mental, the philosophy and the idea of what are we going to do when we get to Mars? How are we going to settle and colonize Mars? What kind of social structure are we going to set up? And how are we going to make Mars a success? Because if we think we're going to follow the principles on Earth with capitalism and democracy and so forth, then it's not going to happen, right? So we need to find a different way. So here's the magic $100 bill. So just to show you the insanity of money, right? The traveling salesman is traveling and he sells whatever encyclopedias or whatever. Shows you my age, right? Traveling salesman selling encyclopedias. Maybe traveling salesman selling the latest, newest health products and shampoos and bathing products that are really good for you and keep you young, and they have no toxins and bad things in it, right? So this lovely traveling salesman arrives in your small town, and he pulls up to the hotel, and he leaves his car outside because it's safe, and he goes in and he meets the hotel manager at the front desk, and he says, "Hello, I'm John. I'm a traveling salesman. I've come to your town. I'm on a little conference here and to do some promotion, and I'd like to stay in your hotel, but I'm a little picky. Can I possibly see one of the rooms?" And the hotel manager says, "Oh, absolutely." And he says, "Well, here's a key for room number 2. Please go upstairs and have a look. Take as much time as you want, but please, I just need a deposit. Please leave $100 deposit here on the counter with me. I'll give you back the $100 when you come down and give me the key back." So John, the traveling salesman, says, "Fantastic." He puts down $100 on the counter, and he goes upstairs to look at the room. He's up there, and we forget about John. He's really inspecting that room very, very well. He's looking everywhere, checking things out. While he's up there, the hotel manager sees the $100 bill on the counter in front of him. He looks across the road, and he sees the butcher. the butchery across the road, and he suddenly remembers, oh my goodness, I still owe the butcher $100 for the catering that he brought me last week. So let me go and quickly give him the $100 since I've got the $100. And he goes across the road. He says, hello, Jimmy, the butcher. Here's $100 I owe you for last week's catering. Thank you very much. And Jimmy, the butcher, says, oh, thank you so much. I really need that. Thank you so much. The hotel manager leaves. Jimmy, the butcher, takes the $100 bill. He goes, oh my goodness, now I can pay James the plumber. So it's all names with J by the looks of it, right? So Jimmy the butcher calls Mark the plumber, and he says, Mark, I've got your $100 here. Please come and fetch it for fixing the plumbing in the butchery last week. Thank you so much. Mark the plumber arrives. He's very excited. He gets his $100, and he drives out there. He drives his car to the garage where he wants to pay where he's going to pay the garage owner for fixing his car last week. So he goes to the garage owner and he says, David, the garage owner, he says, David, here's $100 that I owe you for fixing my car last week. Thanks so much, and so forth. And Mark, the plumber, goes his merry way. And David, the garage owner, says, wow, this is fantastic. I can go now pay my electricity bill or whatever he needs to go and pay. He gets in his car and he drives, and he stops at a traffic light, or a robot as we call it in South Africa. He stops at a robot, and right next to him at the robot is this lovely hooker, Sally. And Sally says, hey, David, where's $100 you owe me for last week? And David goes, oh, Sally, wow. And David isn't married, by the way. He's a single guy, and he's got Sally on the side. So David says, oh my God, Sally, I'm so sorry. And he takes $100 and he gives it to Sally, the prostitute. And Sally says, thank you very much. And David drives off, and Sally keeps walking down the sidewalk as she walks past the hotel. And the hotel manager sees Sally. And he says, Sally, hey, come in here. Where's the $100 you owe me for renting a room last week? And Sally says, oh, sorry, hotel manager, I completely forgot. She takes the $100 bill, she puts it back on the counter, says, thank you very much for that room last week. It was fantastic. She walks out the door, at which point the traveling salesman comes down the stairs. He says to the hotel manager, thank you very much. I took a look at your lovely room. It is absolutely fabulous. It's just a little bit too small for me, so it's not really right for me. So here's the key. Can I have my $100? The hotel manager looks down at the $100 bill and he says, here you go. Here's your $100. And he gives it back to the traveling salesman. What has just happened? A bit of magic. One $100 bill that did the rounds and paid a whole bunch of people, a whole chain reaction, and came back to the point where it started. Let that sink in a little bit about the idea and the trap of fiat currency that we're all in. If that doesn't make you think and wonder about this insanity and how we need to get ourselves out of that without fighting the system, never, ever, ever will I promote fighting anyone or any violence, opposition, or conflict. Never, ever, right? We will always use the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation in the most brilliant and smartest way, using the best lawyers and the best out-of-the-box thinkers and business strategists to use the system so we create structures that help us use the tools that are actually aimed at enslaving us. So we'll use the tools that make as much profit to bring that profit back to us so we can use that profit to help uplift our towns. So on that note, I'm basically now going to finish off by going out into outer space and taking us to Mars. Now, whether you believe the Earth is a ball or whether it's flat, that doesn't matter. I don't care, right? That is a whole discussion and a lovely argument for another time. And we're going to take a rocket and we're going to go to Mars. We're going to plan our trip and we're going to plan the whole string of rockets, or we're going to build a giant spaceship that can escape gravity. And because we've managed to do that, and whether Elon is doing it or whether Elon got some help from some aliens and ETs that taught him how to do anti-gravity, that's fantastic. So we're going to implement some ET alien anti-gravity technology in our beautiful giant spaceships that can take a few thousand people to Mars. And we're going to plan to go to Mars. So what do we need to start a colony on Mars? We're going to need, first of all, we're going to need water and food and shelter and healthcare and someone to cook the food, someone to grow the food, someone to prepare the food, someone to fix the technology. We're going to need machines. We're going to need agricultural machines, I guess. We're going to need all kinds of, we're going to need computers. We're going to need, AI. We're going to need all the stuff that I guess we're used to starting businesses and running businesses and growing food and generating electricity and all these things. So we put an entire plan together, right? That has every single role, imaginable role for us to be able to settle Mars. We have everything in place, all the roles in place. And when we're ready, we ship this group of people, 1,000, 2,000 people off to Mars to set up the first colony on Mars. They arrive. They land successfully. No one is hurt, no crashing. There's a beautiful, successful soft landing. They get out of their spaceship. They start putting up their settlements, their igloos or their geodesic domes or whatever it is they do that we have planned for Mars. We start putting in probes to extract water and to generate, clouds and so forth to create rain and etc., etc. We get the seeds, we create tunnels, and we use the moisture from the ground to sprinkle and bring moisture into our tunnels, and so forth. So we set everything up, and we pretty much start the process. We build our little residences, we build our ablution blocks, we build our kitchens, we build our food processing places, and so forth and so forth. And here's the question. We build our hospitals and our clinic. At which point do we start to say, right, well, we need to start paying ourselves some money, because we're noticing that the chef is working a lot harder than the IT guys. And the farmers are toiling out in the heat and the dangerous radiation or whatever the dangers might be. The farmers are working so much harder than the IT guys that are just sitting behind a desk all the time. And the guys that are cleaning the toilets, they have to clean all the crap that we leave behind. That's disgusting. And at which point do we say, well, we need to introduce a payment or remuneration system to pay people based on what they do and how hard they work or how much time they contribute? At which point do we introduce a money in the form of fiat currency that we have on Earth? Or at which point do we introduce a digital currency? Like there's talk about this central bank digital currency. At which point do we introduce something like that to our stranded colonizers of Mars? Because they can't just jump in and fly back. It might be a 2-year trip. Hopefully with the alien ET technology, it's going to just take like 3 days. When you have anti-gravity technology, it shouldn't take more than 2 hours actually. Once you know how to enter the wormholes, and all those kind of things. That's a whole nother discussion. Boy, I love that discussion, because that brings us back to what I started talking about: consciousness, the structure of subatomic matter, the toroidal fields, the balanced magnetic toroidal fields, and so forth, and the wormholes and stargates and so forth. It's all interconnected, and it's a lovely discussion, but it's probably for another podcast that I'm going to go more scientific and science and toroidal field and quantum mechanics and all that stuff, which is, as I mentioned, one of my favorite subjects. So now we got this whole colony on Mars of amazing people. They've set up this most amazing thing. At which point do we introduce money or a currency? At which point do we say, sorry, sorry, John, you're the guy that cleans the toilets. We're not going to pay you as much as we're paying the surgeon, because the surgeon just had to fix somebody's leg. And that's really much more important than you cleaning the toilets. So we're going to pay the surgeon more money than you for cleaning the toilets. At which point are we going to do that? And that if ever we had to do that, what do you think the consequences are going to be? I don't think the outcome is going to be as pleasant as people imagine. And I'm sure you would agree with me. So when we decide to colonize other planets, we will have to come up with a completely different social structure than what we have on Earth today. The current capitalist hierarchical structure is not going to work on a new planet that we colonize. It's not going to work. And I'd like to suggest that the only model that is alive and well and structured today, the only model that they could implement when they colonize, when we colonize Mars or any other planet for that matter, the only system that can work is a one small town system where we all contribute equally, where we all contribute equal number of time, equal number of hours based on our skills, where we also have to work and contribute in other areas, not just in our field of expertise. So just because you're a surgeon doesn't mean you're not going to shovel crap. Just because you're shoveling crap doesn't mean you're going to not help pack the food, and vice versa. Everybody has to contribute across all the different sectors of our society. And by that, we level the playing field. No one is more important than anybody else. Everybody contributes equally towards the well-being, the success, and the prosperity of their community. Whether that community is on Earth in a small town, or whether it's a new colony on Mars. That's what we're doing with the One Small Town initiative. It is a whole new way of thinking, restructuring our towns and communities to create infinite opportunities, infinite prosperity and abundance for ourselves, our families, and our communities. And I think on that note, I'm going to leave you. Say thanks very much for joining me. I really enjoyed this time with you. I love going down these rabbit holes and talking about the philosophy and the motivational aspect of this. Unfortunately, it comes with hardcore, nitty-gritty, red tape, bureaucratic matrix stuff like business plans and return on investment and project management and implementation and reports and accountability. That's why we built the One Small Town platform, to manage all that so that we can dream, we can be dreamers, we can put our dreams into reality, because we got a robust platform that allows us to do that without anybody being able to cheat anybody, running away with the money, running away with the profits, or not delivering what they said they're delivering. The One Small Town platform is the tool that allows us to do that. And the Infinity Token is the community membership reward system that we've created for ourselves that gives us complete autonomy and independence from any existing fiat currencies. All right, on that note, thanks for joining me, Michael Tillinger. This was podcast number 9 on the 29th of January, 2025. Until next time, take care of yourselves and love each other and be gentle with each other. We live in a brutal world that needs a lot more love, compassion, and unity right now than probably ever before. All right, until next time, bye for now.